The vast emptiness of space stretched endlessly around the colossal alien vessel as it glided silently toward the third planet from the yellow star. Inside the ship's crystalline command center, Commander Vexstar stood before a massive holographic display that showed Earth in perfect detail. The planet rotated slowly, its blue oceans and green continents clearly visible against the black void of space. Vexstar's elongated fingers traced patterns in the air as he manipulated the data streams flowing across the display. His species, the Zephyrians, had evolved on a world of crystal formations and energy fields. Their bodies appeared almost translucent, with internal light patterns that shifted based on their emotions and thoughts. For 3 centuries, they had been expanding their galactic confederation, bringing primitive species under their protective umbrella. Science Officer Kethanina approached the commander, internal lights pulsing with excitement. She carried a data tablet containing months of analysis about the planet's dominant life form. Her crystalline features reflected the soft glow emanating from the holographic Earth as she prepared to deliver her final report. "Commander, our observation period is complete," Kethanina announced, her voice carrying the musical quality typical of her species. The creatures calling themselves humans present a fascinating case study. They appear to be an agricultural species with strong cooperative instincts. Vexstar turned his attention to the detailed behavioral analysis scrolling across the display. The data showed human cities with orderly traffic patterns, farms arranged in efficient geometric layouts, and communication networks that primarily carried messages about commerce, family relationships, and peaceful cultural exchanges. Their entertainment broadcasts initially concerned our analysts, Kethanina continued, manipulating the display to show examples of human movies and television programs. These transmissions contain numerous depictions of violence and conflict. However, our behavioral specialists have determined these are merely primitive fantasy scenarios with no basis in actual human nature. The commander nodded thoughtfully as he examined footage of humans going about their daily routines. He watched office workers traveling to their jobs in orderly lines, farmers tending crops with methodical precision, and medical personnel caring for patients with gentle efficiency. Everything suggested a species that valued stability and cooperation above all else. Most encouraging, Vexter observed, is their response to natural disasters and medical emergencies. Humans consistently organize relief efforts, share resources freely, and work together to solve problems. This level of cooperative behavior indicates they will adapt well to integration into our confederation. Kethanina activated another data stream showing human agricultural systems. Their farming techniques demonstrate the kind of systematic thinking we value in our labor specialists. They've transformed their entire planet into a food production system capable of supporting billions of individuals. Such dedication, too. Organized productivity will serve the collective well. Meanwhile, thousands of miles below on the planet's surface, tired Marine Colonel Jack Morrison was beginning his morning routine on his small farm in the mountains of Montana. At 70 years old, his body still carried the disciplined posture of his military training, though his brown hair had turned completely gray and deep lines marked his weathered face. Jack had purchased the remote property after leaving the military, seeking the peace and quiet that had been absent during his 3 decades of service. He had fought in conflicts across the globe, leading men and women in some of the most dangerous situations imaginable. Now he found satisfaction in the simple work of growing vegetables and raising a few head of cattle. As he stepped onto his front porch carrying a cup of coffee, Jack noticed something unusual in the morning sky. What initially appeared to be clouds began to take on geometric shapes that defied natural explanation. The objects were massive, easily the size of city blocks, and they moved with purposeful direction rather than drifting with the wind. His military instincts activated immediately. Jack set down his coffee cup and moved toward the rifle he kept. Mounted beside his front door, the weapon was a modern hunting rifle, but his hands handled it with the automatic precision of someone who had carried firearms professionally for most of his adult life. Through the rifle's scope, Jack could clearly see that the objects were artificial constructs of some kind. Their surfaces appeared to be made of materials that reflected light in ways unlike anything he had ever encountered. As he watched, more shapes appeared in the sky, descending toward Earth with obvious intelligence behind their movement. Several hundred miles away in downtown Chicago, Dr. Sarah Williams was in the middle of a particularly busy shift at the emergency room, where she had worked for the past 15 years. At 42 years old, she had seen every kind of medical emergency imaginable, from simple injuries to complex trauma cases that required split-second decision-making. Sarah had chosen emergency medicine because she thrived under pressure and enjoyed the challenge of solving complex problems quickly. Her colleagues respected her ability to remain calm during the most chaotic situations, and patients trusted her confident bedside manner even when they were experiencing their worst moments. As she finished examining a patient with chest pains, every electronic screen in the hospital suddenly changed. The medical monitors, computer terminals, television screens, and even the digital displays on medical equipment all showed the same message simultaneously. The text appeared in perfect English, with no translation errors or awkward phrasing. Citizens of Earth, you are now under the protection of the Zephyrian Collective. Please remain calm as we begin integration protocols. Your species has been selected for inclusion in our Galactic Confederation. We bring advanced medical technology, extended lifespans, and freedom from the struggles that have defined your primitive existence. Cooperation with our integration teams will ensure a smooth transition to your new role within our civilization. Sarah stared at the message for several seconds, her medical training helping her process information quickly, even in unprecedented situations. Around her, other hospital staff members were pointing at screens and talking in excited whispers. Some appeared frightened, while others seemed curious about what the message might mean. Back aboard the command ship, Star was reviewing the final integration protocols that would be implemented once their advanced teams landed on Earth. Zephyrian Collective had refined these procedures through decades of experience with primitive species. The process typically took between 6 months and 2 years, depending on how quickly the new species adapted to their expanded role in galactic civilization. Their radio transmissions consistently emphasized themes of peace and cooperation, Kathanina reported as she compiled the last elements of her analysis. Even their military communications focused primarily on defensive strategies and humanitarian missions. This species appears to have evolved beyond the aggressive tendencies that characterize most primitive civilizations. What neither Vexstar nor Kathanina understood was that they were observing a species that had learned to organize itself. Precisely because of thousands of years of conflict and struggle, the cooperative behavior they interpreted as docility was actually the result of humans developing sophisticated systems for survival under the most challenging conditions imaginable. The calm efficiency they observed in human hospitals reflected training designed to function under extreme pressure. The orderly agricultural systems demonstrated a species that had learned to maximize resource production because they understood what happened when resources became scarce. The peaceful communications networks existed because humans had learned that coordination and information sharing were essential tools for surviving in a dangerous universe. As the first Zephyrian shuttles prepared to launch toward Earth's surface, they carried integration teams confident that they understood exactly what kind of species they were about to encounter. The aliens had successfully integrated 47 other primitive civilizations using identical assessment methods, and nothing in their data suggested that humans would present any unusual challenges. The morning sky above New York City suddenly filled with a strange blue light as massive energy fields descended from the alien ships hovering overhead. The translucent barriers formed perfect domes over the city, cutting off all movement in and out of the metropolitan area. Similar scenes played out simultaneously across the globe as every major population center found itself enclosed within shimmering walls of alien technology. Integration. Supervisor Mordix materialized in the United Nations building through the beam of light that deposited him directly in the main assembly hall. His appearance caused immediate panic among the security personnel, but their weapons proved completely ineffective against his energy shield. The alien stood nearly 8 feet tall, with the same crystalline features as his fellow Zephyrians, but his internal light patterns pulsed with authority and confidence. The hastily assembled emergency session included world leaders who had been transported to the building through the same alien technology that had brought Mordix. President James Mitchell of the United States sat stiffly in his assigned seat. His jaw clenched as he studied the alien supervisor with the calculating gaze of someone who had spent 20 years in military intelligence before entering politics. Distinguished representatives of humanity, Mordix began, his voice carrying perfectly through the assembly hall, despite the fact that his mouth barely moved when he spoke. Your species has been evaluated and found suitable for integration into the Zephyrian Collective. This is a moment of celebration, not concern. The alien's translation technology was indeed flawless, converting his words into the native language of each listener with perfect grammar and pronunciation. However, the condescending tone in his voice came through clearly in every language, making his true attitude toward humanity unmistakable. We bring gifts beyond your current comprehension, Mordix continued, gesturing toward holographic displays that appeared in the air around him. Medical technology that will extend your lifespans to 3 centuries. Energy systems that will eliminate poverty and hunger. Transportation methods that will allow you to visit distant worlds. The Secretary General of the United Nations, Maria Rodriguez, leaned forward in her chair. What do you expect from humanity in exchange for these gifts? Mordix's internal lights shifted to what might have been amusement among his species. Your contribution will be determined based on your natural abilities and inclinations. Our analysis indicates that humans excel at agricultural production, resource extraction, and systematic labor. You will find fulfillment in serving these functions within our greater civilization. President Mitchell felt his military training kick into high alert as he recognized the language being used. The alien was describing humanity as a conquered population being assigned work duties, not as partners in some galactic alliance. He glanced around the assembly hall and saw that most of the other world leaders were focusing on the promised benefits rather than the implications of the alien's words. What happens if we decline your offer? Asked the Prime Minister of Canada, David Thompson. The question caused Mordix's light patterns to shift to what clearly indicated displeasure. Decline? To decline. We are offering you advancement beyond your wildest dreams. No rational species would refuse such an opportunity. Meanwhile, far from the diplomatic discussions taking place in the enclosed cities, Jack Morrison was discovering that his remote Montana farm lay outside the energy barriers that contained the major population centers. Within hours of the barriers appearing, his property had become a gathering point for every veteran, hunter, and survivalist in the region. Former Army Sergeant Lisa Taylor had driven her pickup truck through the night to reach Jack's farm after seeing the barriers appear around Denver. She spread hand-drawn maps across Jack's kitchen table, marking the locations of every known barrier with red ink. At 38 years old, Lisa had served 2 tours in Afghanistan before returning home to work as a park ranger in the Colorado mountains. Look at the pattern, Lisa said, pointing to the barrier locations with a pencil. We've isolated every major population center but left the rural areas completely open. Classic military strategy when you want to control the educated elite, while ignoring the rural population you consider harmless. Jack studied the map with the same attention he had once given to enemy troop movements overseas. They're making the same mistake every occupying force makes. They think farmers and hunters are just simple country folk who won't cause problems. More vehicles arrived throughout the day, bringing retired soldiers, local law enforcement officers, and civilian volunteers who had military experience. By evening, Jack's farmhouse had been transformed into an impromptu command center, where serious discussions were taking place about the alien occupation. Former Navy SEAL Mike Bradley had driven from Idaho with a truck full of communication equipment. The barriers are blocking all electronic signals in and out of the cities, he reported. Radio, cell phone, internet, everything. But they're not jamming communications outside the barriers. Inside the enclosed cities, the alien integration process was moving forward with methodical efficiency. Dr. Sarah Williams found herself dealing with the first human casualties of what the aliens called their improvement program. Workers who had been selected for various labor assignments were brought to special medical facilities where alien technology was used to make them more suitable for their assigned roles. The first case that troubled Sarah was a construction worker named Robert Chen, who had been brought to her emergency room by alien medical technicians. Robert had always been known for asking questions and suggesting improvements to work procedures. Now he sat quietly in the examination room, responding to questions with simple yes or no answers and showing no interest in anything around him. "What exactly did you do to him?" Sarah asked the alien medical technician who had accompanied Robert. "We removed disruptive personality traits that would interfere with his assigned function." The technician replied matter-of-factly, "He will now find satisfaction in following instructions without the burden of excessive curiosity or independent thinking." Sarah felt a chill run down her spine as she realized what she was seeing. The alien medical technology could indeed heal injuries and extend lifespans, but it could also fundamentally alter human personality and behavior. The aliens were not just offering medical improvements. They were rewriting human nature to make people more compliant and easier to control. Over the following days, Sarah treated more cases of humans who had undergone neural compliance adjustments. Each patient showed the same pattern: reduced curiosity, eliminated independence, and complete acceptance of whatever task they had been assigned. The aliens were systematically removing the personality traits that made humans creative, problem solvers, and independent thinkers. Back at Jack's farm, the growing resistance network was beginning to understand the true scope of what they were facing. Intelligence reports from people who had escaped the cities painted a disturbing picture of humanity, being systematically processed and modified to serve alien purposes. "They're not trying to destroy us," Lisa Taylor explained during one of their evening planning sessions. "They're trying to domesticate us, turn us into a species that will serve their needs without question or resistance." The Zephyrians continued their integration process with the confidence that came from having successfully absorbed 47 other species using identical methods. Their experience had taught them that primitive species initially resisted change, but quickly adapted once they experienced the benefits of advanced technology and organized civilization. What they failed to understand was that humans had developed their cooperative behaviors specifically as tools for survival in dangerous situations. The same instincts that made humans work together during natural disasters and medical emergencies were now being activated by the alien occupation, but in ways the Zephyrians had never encountered before. The breakthrough came on a rainy Tuesday evening in a suburban garage outside Denver. Former Marine mechanic Tom Bradley was hunched over his workbench, surrounded by disassembled electrical equipment and pages of hastily scribbled calculations. At 45 years old, Tom had spent 20 years maintaining military vehicles before opening his own repair shop. Now he was applying that same methodical problem-solving approach to the most important challenge of his life. Tom had been studying the energy barriers that enclosed the cities for weeks, using equipment borrowed from the local power company, where his brother worked as an electrician. The barriers appeared solid and impenetrable, but Tom's engineering background told him that any energy field had to have vulnerabilities. He just needed to find the right frequency to disrupt them. The moment of discovery came when Tom accidentally created a feedback loop in a modified power transformer he was testing. The surge of electromagnetic energy caused the workshop lights to flicker, and more importantly, it made the section of barrier visible through his garage. Windows shimmer and fade for several seconds before stabilizing again. Tom stared at the barrier for a long moment, then looked back at his equipment with growing excitement. He had found a weakness. The alien energy fields operated on a specific frequency that could be disrupted by civilian electrical equipment that had been modified in ways the aliens had never considered. Within hours, Tom was posting detailed instructions on every social media platform and underground communication network he could access. His message spread like wildfire through rural communities where people still had internet access outside the barriers. The instructions were simple enough that any electrician or electronics hobbyist could follow them using parts available at hardware stores, hundreds of miles away in Seattle. Software engineer Mike Chen was facing his own rebellion against the alien occupation. His company had been ordered to integrate alien technology into their computer systems, with the promise that the advanced alien software would revolutionize human computing capabilities. Mike's supervisors were eager to cooperate, seeing the opportunity for technological advancement that could make their company incredibly wealthy. But Mike had noticed something troubling about the alien software integration process. The programs were not just adding new capabilities to human computer systems. They were also creating backdoor access points that allowed the aliens to monitor and control every aspect of human digital communication. The aliens were essentially installing surveillance software on every computer network on the planet at 32 years old. Mike had been programming since he was 12 and had developed an almost instinctive understanding of computer security vulnerabilities. Instead of implementing the alien software as ordered, he began developing countermeasures designed specifically to target Zephyrian computer systems. Mike's approach was unlike anything the aliens had encountered before. Rather than trying to match their advanced technology directly, he focused on exploiting the assumptions built into their programming. The alien systems were designed to interface with primitive human technology, which meant they had to operate at levels that human equipment could understand. This created vulnerability points that Mike could attack using techniques the aliens had never considered, working 80-hour days in his apartment. Mike created virus programs that appeared to be normal software updates but contained hidden code designed to disrupt alien computer systems. He distributed his programs through underground networks of programmers who had been secretly communicating since the occupation began. To these programmers, the alien invasion represented the ultimate hacking challenge. They approached it with the same competitive spirit they brought to solving complex coding problems. Meanwhile, Dr. Sarah Williams was organizing her own form of resistance within the medical system. Her position in the emergency room gave her access to alien medical technology and the opportunity to study Zephyrian physiology when injured aliens were brought in for treatment. What she discovered provided crucial intelligence for the growing resistance movement. The aliens' advanced physiology relied heavily on internal energy regulation systems that maintained their crystalline cellular structure. These systems were remarkably efficient, but also surprisingly fragile when exposed to electromagnetic interference. Sarah discovered that standard medical equipment used for electromagnetic pulse therapy could temporarily disrupt alien energy regulators, causing severe disorientation and physical weakness. Sarah began documenting every aspect of alien physiology she could observe, sharing her findings through encrypted medical networks that connected hospitals and clinics around the world. She also established treatment protocols for injured resistance fighters, using her medical training to keep the human rebellion healthy and operational. Her most important contribution came when she realized that the aliens' energy regulation systems were similar to the barriers surrounding the cities. If Tom Bradley's electrical disruption method could affect the barriers, then similar techniques might be effective against the aliens themselves. Back at Jack Morrison's farm in Montana, the resistance movement was evolving from a collection of concerned veterans into a sophisticated military operation. The old Marines' property had become a training center where retired soldiers taught civilian volunteers everything from basic weapons handling to advanced tactical planning. The transformation of farming equipment into military hardware became Jack's specialty. His background in military logistics combined with his farming experience gave him a unique understanding of how to modify civilian equipment for combat purposes. He supervised the conversion of combine harvesters into mobile command posts equipped with communication equipment and armor plating. Tractors were modified to carry heavy equipment and serve as supply vehicles that could operate across rough terrain. The most dramatic innovation came when Jack's group began converting agricultural chemicals into military explosives. Fertilizer had been used to make bombs before, but Jack's team approached the problem with military precision, creating standardized explosive devices that could be manufactured quickly and distributed to resistant cells across the country. Former Army Sergeant Lisa Taylor coordinated the tactical planning, using her military experience to develop strategies that took advantage of human knowledge of local terrain while avoiding direct confrontation with superior alien technology. Her approach emphasized mobility, stealth, and the element of surprise rather than attempting to match alien firepower directly. The first major Resistance success came when Tom Bradley's barrier disruption technique was used to create temporary openings in the energy fields surrounding major cities. Resistance teams could slip through these openings to extract people who wanted to escape alien control and to gather intelligence about conditions inside the enclosed areas. Commander Vexstar received the first reports of organized human resistance with complete disbelief. The species that his xenobiologist had classified as naturally cooperative and submissive was demonstrating tactical capabilities that rivaled trained military forces. Even more disturbing, the humans were adapting and learning from each encounter, developing new countermeasures faster than Zephyrian forces could adjust their strategies. "This is impossible," Vexstar told Science Officer Kethanina as they reviewed damage reports from integration teams around the globe. "Our behavioral analysis showed no evidence of sophisticated military organization or advanced tactical thinking." Kethanina frantically reviewed the original assessment data, searching for clues they might have missed. "Commander, I believe we fundamentally misunderstood their entertainment transmissions. What we interpreted as primitive fantasy scenarios may actually have been educational material teaching tactical and strategic concepts to their entire population." The realization was staggering. The aliens had observed humans watching movies and television programs about warfare, thinking they were seeing crude fictional entertainment. In reality, they had been observing a species that used storytelling as a method for teaching military strategy and tactical thinking to civilians, would never served in formal military organizations. By the third month of occupation, human resistance forces were fielding weapons and equipment that combined alien technology with human engineering in ways that created entirely new tactical possibilities. The species the Zephyrians had expected to control through superior technology was instead learning to use that same technology against them with devastating effectiveness. The crystal chambers aboard the Zephyrian flagship Unity of Worlds had never witnessed such chaos. Emergency lights pulsed through the translucent walls as representatives from 12 different alien species materialized simultaneously through teleportation beams. The emergency session of the Collective High Council had been called after 3 months of increasingly alarming reports from the Earth integration operation. War Coordinator Zexlin stood at the center of the crystalline amphitheater, his normally calm demeanor shattered by the data streaming across holographic displays around him. His species, the Corvani, had served as military advisors to the Collective for over 2 centuries, but nothing in their experience had prepared them for what was happening on Earth. Council member Zexton began, his voice carrying undertones of genuine fear. "We are facing an unprecedented situation. The human species has demonstrated capabilities that directly contradict every assessment in our xenobiological databases. The holographic displays showed footage from Earth that defied everything the Collective thought they knew about primitive species. Human resistance forces were using city subway systems as underground military supply routes, converting civilian factories into weapons manufacturing centers overnight, and turning commercial communications networks into sophisticated military coordination systems." Representative Tessara of the Ethereal Confederation leaned forward in her energy construct chair. "Explain how a species classified as agricultural laborers has developed such advanced military capabilities in mere months." Zexton manipulated the display to show specific examples of human tactical innovation. "They have weaponized every aspect of their civilian infrastructure. Public transportation systems become troop movement networks. Shopping centers become supply depots. Schools become training facilities. Their entire civilization transforms into a military operation within days of perceived threat." On Earth, the transformation Zexton described was indeed taking place with terrifying efficiency. Former Coast Guard Captain Lisa Rodriguez had established her naval resistance headquarters in an abandoned fishing village on the Maine coast. At 51 years old, she had spent 30 years learning to navigate dangerous waters and coordinate rescue operations under impossible conditions. Now she was applying those same skills to military operations against an alien occupation force. Lisa's fleet consisted entirely of modified civilian vessels that appeared to be normal fishing boats, pleasure craft, and cargo ships. Her engineers had installed alien energy weapons salvaged from destroyed Zephyrian installations. But the modifications were hidden beneath false panels and disguised equipment housings. To alien surveillance, her forces looked like ordinary commercial shipping going about normal business. The genius of Lisa's strategy lay in exploiting the aliens' reluctance to attack civilian targets. The Zephyrian Collective prided itself on being a benevolent organization that protected primitive species rather than conquering them. This meant they could not justify attacking human vessels that appeared to be engaged in legitimate commercial activities, even when they suspected those vessels might be carrying resistance fighters. Lisa's forces used this constraint to devastating effect, launching surprise attacks on alien installations before disappearing back into normal shipping traffic. The aliens found themselves unable to retaliate without risking massive civilian casualties, something their own citizens would never accept from a supposedly peaceful confederation. Meanwhile, retired Air Force pilot David Thompson was leading a team of aerospace engineers in developing something the aliens had never imagined possible. Working from a hidden facility in the Nevada desert, David's team was creating hybrid aircraft that combined human piloting techniques with captured alien technology. At 48 years old, David had logged over 6,000 hours of flight time in military aircraft, including combat missions, in some of the most challenging conditions imaginable. His understanding of aerial combat came from years of training that emphasized split-second decision-making and instinctive responses to rapidly changing situations. The breakthrough came when David's team realized that human nervous systems, evolved through millions of years of predator-prey relationships, could actually process visual information and make tactical decisions faster than Zephyrian computer-assisted systems. The aliens relied heavily on automated responses and predictive algorithms, which made them vulnerable to human pilots who could change tactics instantly based on intuition and experience. David's hybrid fighters used alien propulsion and energy systems controlled by human pilots, whose reflexes had been enhanced through training programs that pushed the limits of human reaction speed. In test flights, these aircraft consistently outmaneuvered pure alien fighters, because human pilots could make tactical decisions that alien computers could not predict or counter. Dr. Sarah Williams had expanded her medical resistance network into a global intelligence operation that the aliens found impossible to track or disrupt. Her network operated through established medical communication channels that appeared to be normal professional exchanges between doctors and hospitals. Around the world, Sarah's medical background gave her unique insights into alien weaknesses that proved invaluable to resistance forces. She had discovered that Zephyrian energy regulation systems were vulnerable not just to electromagnetic pulses, but also to specific frequencies of ultrasonic vibration that could be generated using modified medical equipment. During a secure communication link with Jack Morrison's command center in Montana, Sarah delivered her latest analysis of alien capabilities and limitations. "Jack, I need you to understand something important about our enemy. They're not warriors in any sense that we would recognize. They're administrators and technicians who have never faced organized military resistance." Jack Morrison listened carefully from his farmhouse, which had been transformed into a sophisticated command center coordinating resistance activities across 3 states. The old Marine had seen the truth of Sarah's assessment in every encounter. With alien forces, Zephyrians fought like bureaucrats trying to solve administrative problems rather than soldiers adapting to combat situations. Their entire approach to conflict resolution is based on overwhelming technological superiority, Sarah continued. They've never had to develop tactics for fighting an enemy that learns from each engagement and adapts faster than they can adjust their responses. Jack nodded grimly as he studied tactical reports from resistance cells around the globe. "That's exactly what I've been seeing in the field reports. They keep using the same strategies, even after we've developed countermeasures. Like they can't understand that we treat every fight as a learning experience." Back aboard the collective flagship, Science Officer Kethanina was presenting an analysis that sent shockwaves through the assembled representatives. Her latest study of human behavior revealed tactical adaptation capabilities that exceeded anything in their databases of known species. "Council members, we are not dealing with a primitive agricultural species," Kathanina announced, her internal light patterns pulsing with alarm. Humans demonstrate real-time tactical evolution that allows them to develop countermeasures too. Our technology faster than we can develop new applications of that same technology. The holographic displays showed examples of human forces capturing alien equipment and reverse engineering it into entirely new weapon systems within days of acquisition. More disturbing still, humans were sharing these innovations through communication networks that allowed resistant cells on opposite sides of the planet to benefit from tactical breakthroughs immediately. Representative Morkith of the Silicon Collective raised a concern that made every council member uncomfortable. If humans continue developing at their current rate, how long before they achieve technological parity with our forces? Kathanina's response sent a chill through the crystal chambers. Based on current progression rates, humans will achieve effective technological parity within 18 months. However, their tactical adaptation capabilities mean they may achieve combat superiority much sooner. The implications were staggering. The collective was facing a species that not only resisted integration, but was actually becoming more dangerous. With each passing day, worse still, human resistance forces were demonstrating coordination and strategic thinking that suggested they might eventually pose a threat to other collective operations throughout the galaxy. War Coordinator Zexthon delivered the final assessment that would determine humanity's fate. Council members, we must acknowledge a fundamental truth. We're not fighting a primitive species learning to resist occupation. We are fighting a developing apex predator species that views our technology as educational material for improving their own capabilities. The crystal chambers aboard the collective flagship hummed with nervous energy as the final emergency session convened. For 3 consecutive days, representatives from 12 different alien species had gathered to debate a question that had never before required consideration in their 1,000-year history: what to do when a primitive species proved too dangerous to integrate. Science. Officer Kathanina stood before the assembled council, her crystalline features reflecting the harsh emergency lighting that bathed the chamber. The data she carried would fundamentally change how the galactic community viewed an entire region of space. Her internal light patterns pulsed with the weight of delivering conclusions that felt like pronouncing a death sentence. Honored representatives, Kathanina began, her musical voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. We must acknowledge a fundamental error in our assessment protocols. The species we designated as primitive agricultural laborers are actually developing apex predators whose entire planetary civilization operates as a coordinated hunting pack. The holographic displays surrounding the chamber came alive with footage from Earth, told a story of systematic tactical evolution occurring at speeds that defied every model in the collective's xenobiological databases. Human resistance. Forces were conducting operations that required strategic planning capabilities, rivaling the most sophisticated military organizations in known. Galactic Civilization. Representative Tessara of the Ethereal Confederation studied the tactical analysis scrolling past her position. Explain how creatures we observed engaged in peaceful farming activities, transformed into coordinated military strategists within months. Kathanina manipulated the display to show specific examples of human adaptation in combat situations. Their agricultural activities were not signs of docility. They were evidence of a species that had completely dominated their planetary ecosystem through systematic organization and resource management. What we interpreted as peaceful cooperation was actually the result of 10,000 years of competitive survival. The footage showed human forces conducting simultaneous strikes across multiple continents with timing precision that suggested communication and coordination systems operating at levels the aliens had not detected during their initial observations. More disturbing still, captured alien prisoners were being studied with the same methodical approach humans applied to agricultural problems, scientific research, and medical procedures. They treat warfare as a learning experience, Kathanina continued, her voice carrying undertones of genuine fear. Every casualty provides tactical information. Every defeat becomes educational material for developing new strategies. Every victory increases their confidence, and willingness to attempt more ambitious operations. Commander Vexstar materialized. In the chamber, through a transport beam directly from his command position in Earth orbit, his normally calm demeanor showed signs of strain as he prepared to deliver field reports that would influence the collective's most important decision in centuries. Council members, Vexstar announced, must report that human forces have achieved technological capabilities that directly threaten our operational security. They have successfully reverse-engineered our propulsion systems, energy weapons, and communication technologies. More critically, they have developed tactical doctrines, specifically designed to exploit vulnerabilities in our standard operating procedures. The implications sent ripples of alarm through the assembled representatives. No primitive species in collective history had ever demonstrated the ability to understand and counter advanced alien technology within such a short time frame. On Earth, the human resistance had indeed evolved far beyond anything the aliens had imagined possible. Jack Morrison stood in what had once been his peaceful farmyard, now transformed into a sophisticated command center, coordinating military operations across 3 continents. Communication arrays disguised as farm equipment maintained contact with resistance cells in every major population center on the NZ planet. The old Marine watched through high-powered telescopes as alien ships began moving into departure formations in Earth's orbital space. His weathered hands held reports from resistance commanders around the globe, documenting successful operations that had systematically dismantled alien infrastructure and captured enough technology to fundamentally change human capabilities. Sarah Williams approached Jack's observation post, cleaning her hands on a medical cloth after treating the last wounded resistance fighter to arrive at their facility. Her medical network had evolved into the primary intelligence gathering system for human forces, using established medical communication channels to coordinate global resistance activities. The alien withdrawal appears to be permanent, Sarah reported, studying the orbital formations through her own equipment. Our intelligence networks are picking up massive energy signatures indicating full fleet mobilization for departure. Jack nodded as he continued watching the alien ships. His military experience told him that the enemy's retreat was not tactical maneuvering, but complete strategic withdrawal. The aliens were abandoning their integration operation entirely rather than continuing to face human resistance. Back aboard, the collective flagship, War Coordinator Zexthon was delivering the strategic assessment that would determine humanity's future relationship with galactic civilization. His analysis painted a picture of a species that posed threats extending far beyond their single planet. Fellow council members, Zexton announced, we face 3 possible courses of action, each with implications that could affect the stability of our entire confederation. We can continue the integration operation and risk eventual military defeat by an increasingly capable enemy. We can withdraw immediately and hope to contain them within their solar system. Or we can escalate to planetary sterilization and risk creating a precedent that could destabilize relations with every species in our confederation. The debate that followed revealed the depth of concern among collective leadership. Representatives who had never questioned the integration of primitive species now found themselves discussing quarantine protocols and long-term containment strategies for a single planet. Representative Morkith of the Silicon Collective raised the question that dominated every strategic calculation. If we withdraw now, prevents humans from eventually developing interstellar travel capabilities and carrying their aggressive tendencies to other worlds. Kethanina's response reflected calculations that extended centuries into the future. Our models suggest that human technological development will achieve interstellar capability within 50 to 100 years, regardless of our actions. However, continued engagement with our forces will accelerate that timeline while providing them with advanced technology they can study and improve upon. The final vote was unanimous, but not because of agreement on the best solution. Rather, every representative recognized that all available options carried significant risks. An immediate withdrawal offered the best chance of limiting human access to advanced alien technology as the massive Zephyrian fleet began its departure from Earth's orbit. They implemented protocols that had never before been used in collective history. Quantum communication beacons were positioned throughout the solar system, broadcasting warnings that would remain active for thousands of years. The message transmitted by these beacons would become legendary and galactic. Civilization. Warning. To all spacefaring civilizations, Sol system under quarantine by Collective Treaty 847, apex predator species in active development. Approach prohibited. Species demonstrates rapid technological adaptation, coordinated aggressive behavior, and systematic tactical evolution. Extreme caution advised. Jack Morrison and Sarah Williams stood together in the Montana farmyard as the last alien ships disappeared into the star-filled darkness above Earth. Around them, the sounds of a world returning to normal mixed with the ongoing activities of humans studying captured alien technology in workshops and laboratories that had been hastily constructed during the months of resistance. "Do you think they'll ever come back?" Sarah asked, watching the point of light where the alien fleet had vanished into interstellar space. Jack smiled with the grim satisfaction of a soldier who had achieved victory against impossible odds. "I doubt it. But I suspect that someday soon, we'll be the ones doing the visiting. And when that happens, they'll discover that everything they feared about us was just the beginning." In facilities across the planet, human scientists and engineers continued their work with alien technology. Their research driven by the same methodical approach that had characterized human agriculture, medicine, and warfare. The galaxy had just learned that Earth was home to a species that treated every challenge as an opportunity to learn and grow stronger.